Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Dennis Borsch, and today I want to show you a game that inspired my chess. And this one is Tal-Portisch from 1965. Tal, who would be celebrating his 84th birthday, played this game in the quarterfinals, so this was an important match for him. Surprised by his opponent, who played the Karl Khan, he goes for a speculative sacrifice, which, however, is very powerful. As you see, rook takes e6 was played, stopping black from castling and also putting pressure on the king. The whole point of this sacrifice is to take, and after king f8, join the party with bishop f4 and rook e1. However, Portisch had some options here. Probably the best move would have been king d8 with the hopes of survival, but if he played bishop e7, there is this beautiful move suggested by Mikhail Tal himself, bishop g5, queen c7, rook e1, and you can see that even though black is up a whole rook, white's attack is already near decisive, as after queen d7, there's rook takes e7, and there are deadly threats on this king on f8. Therefore, Portisch chose king f8, but then he had to face with bishop f4. Now the only move is rook d8, because if you go knight takes d3, it's checkmate in short notice, as queen e7, king g8 to queen e6 is a mate. Therefore, he played rook d8. Here comes c5. Not only preparing the idea of bishop d6, but preparing bishop c4 with deadly queen f7 ideas. Portisch decides to give up the queen, which wouldn't be a bad choice, by the way, because he does get two pieces and a rook. However, Tal calculated a little bit further. Knight d5, he takes a7, king here, rook e1 check, king d6, b4. Here comes the pawn. Rook a8, b5, rook takes a7, rook e6 check, rook takes f6. And here Portisch resigned, because if he would take on f6, there's queen g7 check, and he would pick up the rook, and this is just a winning position for Tal. Now, this rook takes e6 sacrifice was always in the back of my mind. So when in the early 2010-12, I played a game against Grandmaster Zierk, I came up with the idea, in this position, can I use Tal's fantastic sacrifice? So let's take a look at that game. So I played e4 and transposed into the pawn-up variation. Knight c3, e6, d4, bishop c4. Now this is a typical scenario where white gets very good play for the isolated pawn, and black has to contend and deal with all these passive pieces on c8 and f8. Castles, rook e1. So at those times, I really love playing active moves, and rook e1 is a natural one. You're just trying to get it on the file. e6 takes, b6, bishop d3, bishop b7, h4. Already, I'm signaling aggressive intentions against my young grandmaster opponent. Now, after a long thought, my opponent played bishop f6, but if takes on h4, I plan to take, and come up with this attack with rook e3, with the idea of rook h3, and do this rook lift, attacking both the g-pawn, h-pawn. My opponent played bishop f6, knight g5, just being straightforward and aggressive, queen g4. Notice that I am swarming on in and putting pressure on all of the pawns on my opponent's king side. Knight e7, h5, knight f5. And seemingly everything is okay in black's position. However, the knowledge of this game of Tal-Portisch 1965 helped me come up with the best try in the position. So I took on g6, I can't go queen h3 quite yet because the knight needs defense, but I don't need that because I have rook takes e6. The same idea, different position. F takes e6, knight takes e6, and even though I'm down a whole rook, Black's pieces are again discoordinated, just in the aforementioned game, and I'm very close to checkmating. Queen d5, and I played knight f4. However, it turns out I could have played queen g6, knight g7, knight f4, and play on with a whole rook down. But I didn't dare do that because I was a little bit afraid of this g2 pawn being weak. Queen g5, check here, and after bishop a3, my attack would be decisive, according to engine, because after rook e8, I have bishop g6 winning. And there is no way of stopping all these myriads of threats, not to mention that my rook is going to show up. But I played knight f4, which is just as good, saying, hey, I'm going to defend the g2 pawn now, and you have no real ways of defending. Opponent played queen f7. If queen d7, I would still go play knight takes g6, and even though I'm still down the rook, this king is just so weak that my attack is near decisive. Queen f7, bishop f5, bishop c8. A very nice touch by Steven Zierk, trying to eliminate as many of my attackers as possible. But something that I learned from Mikhail Tal is to keep calm even when there's chaos on the board. So I took, rook takes, bishop d2, saying, I'm okay with the position. You have weaknesses all around, and I've got enough compensation in material for your exchange. King g7, rook e1, rook e8. But even though I have compensation, I have no intentions of exchanging pieces, especially as mine are much, much stronger and I have a target to latch onto, namely the g6 pawn. g8, c4. I'm trying to build a monster on e6. Bishop h8, d5, queen f5, queen h4. Obviously, I do not want exchanges. I want to go for the attack, especially as these rooks are discoordinated. Rook c8, rook e3, queen h5, and queen h5 is some sort of a panic, seeing that my rook h3 is likely to lead to decisive attacks. However, this time taking is good, because I realized I have d6 and my pawn is promoted. Rook d8 was played. Now king f7 is just one move short of saving the game, because I have d7 forking and threatening promotion. Rook d8, knight takes, rook e6. King f7, rook e7 check, bishop f4. Obviously, I want to keep this pawn on d6 and not take that one. I can take those pawns later. a5, g3. Just making sure everything is protected and that my advantage is safe, and then I continue from there. Bishop f6, rook b7, bishop d4. I repeat once, but I have no intentions of making a draw. I play king g2, getting closer to time control, and finishing it with move 40. King f5, but that actually loses already because of rook h7 and g6. After rook h6, my opponent resigned. So this is how I've got inspired by Tal, and that is why you should study the games of the legend, who would be 84 today. Thank you for watching, and have a good day or good night, wherever you are. Bye-bye.